Najarala is actually one of the only snake wyverns in the game well, other than the extinct Remobra. I hope they actually add more snake wyverns to the game because they are such a unique thing, and this is really why Najarala is one of my favorites. But today we're going to discuss the ecology of Najarala and more specifically his armor. Now, honestly, when it comes to Najarala, I couldn't think of a prehistoric creature to relate him to. Ankylosaurs or maybe the armored armadillos from the Pleistocene area. But honestly, Najarala is actually its own thing. You can't even relate it to Titanoboa or Gigantophis. But let's start off with pretty much everything else here. What we usually do on this channel. Let's discuss why Najarala has this armor. But first, we're going to talk about the things it eats. Because sometimes when predators or even prey animals have armor, it's usually because of the predators or prey animals they have. Rhenoplos is one of the few animals. Najarala is, I'm going to say Nargacuja. Najarala is basically hunts. It's a very common prey in both some forest areas and some swamp areas and even in deserts. So Rhenoplos is pretty common for it. Slagtoth as well, considering again they live in swamps and marshy areas, even in some volcano biomes, so it's not really uncommon for Slagtoth to be prey. And Aptonoth, obviously the bread and butter of every single monster entirely. Now this means that Najarala will normally eat pretty much anything it comes across here. Probably not its own species as some others do, but again, it's very common for Aptonoth to be preyed upon by every single monster entirely. But none of these monsters seem to have any need for armor. So let's up the ante. What animals does Najarala actually eat before, Najarala actually eat? What other fanged beasts or flying wyverns actually eat? Well, that's actually pretty simple. Najarala actually eats yen, kutku, kongolala, and even other, monsters like Jaggy. Let's talk about it. The Great Jaggy is a monster that's confirmed on its menu. This, the dog wyvern itself here, it's pretty common for these guys to suffer a mortality rate from some of the bigger and much more powerful monsters. All right, Jaggy may actually be a common prey item for Najarala other than the other dromes like Velocidrome and Great Rogi and the Great Makoko. So it's pretty common prey item for the Najarala to eat here, and it's easily overpowered. Next up, we have Kongolala. Kongolala is probably the now second biggest fanged beast after Garen Gollum here, and Kongolala actually actually eats mushrooms and maybe some insects to a degree here. I think it represents a orangutan, maybe even a chimpanzee, but they do live in large groups, and the alpha male Kongolalas do have a high mortality rate from Nargacuja, Rathian, etc., and Kongolala is no exception. Najarala would easily be able to prey upon these, striking it with its venom, or coiling it like any other snake, pinning it down with its claws, and then going for the throat to deliver a finishing blow. Yin Kutku, obviously, kind of self-explanatory. Yin Kutkus are pretty common in the world as well, and they actually have unfortunately, they have a very high mortality rate when it comes to monsters. It's also known that Yangaruga is able to send these things panicking, and they actually go all over the place, right? So it's very possible that Yangaruga actually would accidentally run into a Najarala, and Najarala would snatch it up. Now, with this in mind, I actually do think that Quechahuacha is another creature that is another fanged beast that's predated by Najarala here. The creature is easily able to swing in trees and actually goes to the ground very commonly, and Najarala would easily make a meal out of this. Even when climbing up trees, it's very possible that Quechahuacha would still be a prey item, as Najarala is still known to climb on trees as well. Basarios is another creature that is common in these forest-like areas most of the time, and they actually do migrate to the forest areas to actually live somewhat easier lives here. But unfortunately for Basarios, I do think Najarala has the capability to take it down and make a meal out of it. And I have to say that Basarios does have a very high list of predators due to the fact that it's not only pretty much an ore and rock eater, but the sheer fact it doesn't have too many defenses except its camouflage. So I do have to say that Najarala would be able to take down and crush a Basarios. And yes, I'm saying crush because its constrictive force with that armor is definitely something. So we have around 5 creatures from Jaggy, Great Jaggy, Yin Kutku, Quechuacha, Congalala, and Basarios. But none of these monsters really just say, hey, I need armor, right? None of these guys will be able to take down a Najarala even if it had armor. But this armor is so impenetrable that even the guild deems it indestructible by characters like Devil Joe. This means that a Devil Joe has been cited not being able to pierce a Najarala's invincible armor. But why is that? Well, let's start about its defensive mechanism. These shrapnel bombs, right? These, scales can be launched at opponents, and even if, they miss them, Najarala can literally just shake its tail at such a frequency, they explode and they turn into these sonic shrapnel bombs, piercing the opponent and causing bleed. So why would Najarala need this kind of defense? Why would Najarala need this kind of armor? And well, it's very possible that it nests on the ground. It's very possible that after mating, female Najarala will find a secluded area to lay their eggs, probably using their body to form a nest, And this means that they may have a carcass nearby so that they can feed themselves, or they may build a nest in the ground as well. And this means that Devil Joe is likely a predator of, both its young and probably there to steal the carcass. This means that Devil Joe is likely a common threat. Okay, a common threat for Najarala, and thus its evolutionary adaptation to Devil Joe was to deal with its jaws, giving it a very high and impenetrable armor to the point where Devil Joe's teeth either don't break through, or if it tries to break through, its teeth break off without causing any damage. Okay, so this means that Devil Joe likely can't penetrate the armor because it's really adapted to dealing with monsters like Devil Joe. It's even known that Gore Magala is also a very big problem in Najarala's life as well. And with, Gore Magala being somewhat an elder dragon, I know it doesn't have a classification, but let's be real here, that thing should have been classified as an elder dragon, or at least an infant elder dragon, okay? There's no reason why it should not have a classification. Let's be real here. And the reason why that Najarala may also need this is because of the common competition it has. Najarala is actually very good at catching fanged beasts. Like I said before, it should be able to eat Quechuacha and even catch Quechuacha despite going into trees. It's a nimble creature that's actually shown to be around a lot of trees. It should be able to climb those trees as well, just due to the design of its claws and the way its body works. It may even climb, the sturdier trees that Quechuacha prefers in order to snatch him up. This would put it in competition with Narga Kuja. You see, Narga Kuja is a very good specialist when it comes to dealing with fanged beasts here. The Congolalas, the Quechuachas, even the Bishitans in Rise. Nargacuja would actually be a very good specialist in catching them, being able to take them out of their trees, take them out of their homes. And this means that Najarala, being the snake wyvern, being able to probably do the same thing like Treebo is able to do and able to go into trees here, this would also mean that I do think that Najarala would be in competition with, Nargacuja here. Just simply due to the fact that these monsters are able to predate and even specialize in taking down these fanged beasts very commonly. This may mean that he has that armor just to deal with Nargacuja's claws and spiked, tail quills. But what about its subspecies? The title Najarala. I have to say, one of my favorite designs of a subspecies to this date. Still, look at the coloration on it. It's so beautiful, so exquisite here. But why is title Najarala's armor much thicker? Let's give it a multiplier, right? Let's try that Super Saiyan multiplier like I do for everything else in my versus battles. Let's give it a multiplier of 10, right? Again, Devil Joe is a very big possibility. And considering the fact that Najarala is twice the length of Legicris and can turn that length into height. This means that Tidal Najarala is probably the biggest creature, biggest surface creature, mind you, in the normal Wyvern Kingdom. Bigger than Devil Joe. Okay, probably much more powerful as well, considering Tidal Najarala does need to be able to hang with some of the best creatures. I would even say it supplements Barioth as the apex predator. It may actually be one of the top 2 predators in the Arctic. Definitely up there with Tiger Rex and Barioth, in my opinion. But let's talk about its prey item, see if it needs armors for that. Lagombi, no. It's actually probably a plentiful prey item in the Arctic regions with such a high breeding rate as well. And you know how many clutches and how many offspring rabbits can give birth to, right? So Lagombi, no, it doesn't need it, and it's already confirmed a prey item. The next one on its list has to be, I think it's Kezu. Yep, it's definitely Kezu. I had to take a relook at it. Yeah, Kezu is definitely on its list here, which is actually pretty interesting. But due to how Rise Ecology works and the fact that Kezu are known to leave their caves pretty commonly, this means that it would have to cross the frozen seaway at some point, and then boom, a Tidal Najarala has a good meal. All right. Next one I have to say here are Gammoth. Gammoth calves are actually pretty common in the old world, and actually they suffer a high mortality rate when they're much younger. I do think that with Gammoth herds, with the females being able to move across the frozen seaway, a calf is bound to get snatched up by a Tidal Najarala. But an adult Gammoth is avoidable, okay? Adult Gammoths are not to be taken by any form of predator, not even the likes of Barioth. But what I think it really has its armor for is this guy right here, Zamtrios. The bite force of a Zamtrios is very, very dangerous. And I think Najarala's armor is made to deal with it. It actually hunts the Zamites. So this means that what if a Zamtrios is around protecting its baby Zamites? Because amphibians and monsters are actually known to be very good parents here. This means that Tidal Najarala would not only be able to resist the bite of a Zamtrios, but it wouldn't penetrate its skin. This means it would wrap it up, coil it, constrict it, and then deliver its powerful neurotoxin. Yes, Tidal Najaralas are also more venomous than their forest-dwelling counterparts. So, in all honesty, it also may have developed its armor for Barioth as well. Those fangs may even break once dealing with it, meaning Tidal Najarala is probably the superior predator. And by the way, I almost forgot, Blangoga as well would definitely fit in the prey category. Okay, Blangoga definitely is a prey animal because they also cross the frozen seaway and they actually do suffer a very high mortality rate. And I do think that means Blangoga would they would definitely just be prey items. So that makes around 5 prey items in Lagombi, Kezu, young Gammoths, Zamtrios, and Blangoga. And their younger counterparts for Zamtrios and Blangoga and Gammoth as well. So all in all, I do think Najarala developed its armor due to the biological adaptations of its competition. With Devil Joe, Zamtrios, and Barioth, it developed this armor to basically help deal with these predators. And it may even not have a high a higher prey rate as well, meaning it really isn't predated by any of these creatures here anymore. It's very possible that its evolutionary function pretty much countered being a prey item to pretty much elevating it. That's what I'm trying to say. Elevating it to one of the top tier predators in the Monster Hunter world. That's going to be all for today, guys. I'll see you guys for the next video. Peace.